Hello, welcome. The can you hear me okay? Sound check, sound check. Yes, so this is Toronto Electronic Music Producers Meetup for August 2024. And basically you just had the intro there with music from Vostel, which was Final Push. I did actually have a little credit in the subtitle in the beginning there, so I tried to give proper credit visually, but just as another reminder. And that's off of what was it? Station. Sorry, Vostel, I'm butchering this. Station 23. So those are very excellent album that Vostel just released a few months ago. So go out there and check that out. And yeah, so most of everyone who's on the Zoom call right now are regulars, so you guys know how it works. But for the benefit of anyone watching the archive or watching live, we basically have music producers submit their tracks. We put it into a random name selector and we spin the wheel. So the order of whose music gets played back is random. And typically we will sometimes we'll also have video. So some of our members will produce video as well as music. And our definition of electronic music is very wide. It's literally any type of music that has at least an element which is electronic, so even hybrid. So we're agnostic in terms of genre. And also, what I feel like I'm forgetting something. Yeah, so I have a bunch of names ready to go. Andrew, I think I need to add you. Just give me a quick second and I'll do that. Uh, Andrew, Richard, Vostel, myself, Peter.
Who's this guy, Temperbot?
Oh, that's just for the sound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm using two computers, so I ultimately have uh the Zoom whatchamacallit. Am I forgetting anyone's name here, by the way? Phil. That's whose name. I knew there was someone. Okay. Yeah, so basically, because I'm on two different computers, if you follow the one I'm streaming from, I have the Temper bots running just so we can pick up the audio stream. Now, some inside back process there, you know. Took a while to figure that out, to be honest, but you know, kind of dealing with boomers sometimes. All right, Peter, you're the first contestant. Anything you want to say about your track before we play it back? Oh, and you guys already know, but we are on Twitch and YouTube, so when we play back, we play it back on those platforms. But yes, Peter,
Yeah. So uh, I've been working on a few tracks that I'm not quite ready to share. So I had to get into my bag of tricks and a track that I'd completed before. Uh, but I'm very happy with it. I've done a lot of synthwave poppy stuff. It's certainly in the poppy realm. I mean, absolutely dead center. But it's a little more house centered, a little less synthy. And I was actually trying to copy somebody who I named the song after because I didn't want anyone to think I hadn't heard the original because there's a particular sample that people would be familiar with. And um, finally, it just melts into another song, which I find myself sometimes when I find a good vibe and a key with a few instruments, I find it a lot of fun to kind of move into another song. And I've done it a few times, and this is one of those examples. So enjoy.
all right, sounds good. Yep. So
And good
let's.
summertime vibes, actually. Actually,
Okay.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah. No, that's true. We need some. There's still some summer left, so we got to make the most of it. So let's give it a chance. Let's give it a listen. Let's give it a listen. Let's give it a listen.
happy, put a smile on you. When we did it, don't really dance on me. Baby, let us run things. All them designers I will buy for you. Then I'll buy more things. Tell me what I wouldn't do for your love. Girl, all I want from you is your trust. Your trust. Yeah, your trust. Yeah, your trust. Go so low. You can make me go low. Look at this, down on me. I'll make you happy, put a smile on you. When we did it, we could dance on me. Baby, let us run things. All them designers I will buy for you. Then I'll buy more things. Tell me what I wouldn't do for your love. Girl, all I want from you is your trust. Your trust. Yeah, your trust. Yeah, your trust.
Yeah, very clean.
Yeah, nice. Are you planning on extending out that that other kind of track that you tacked on at the end and
Uh,
working that into something?
yeah,
'Cause it
absolutely.
works pretty well by itself as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, I really liked it. There was when I first kind of found my style, I did a synthwave track, and it ended up kind of being four songs, but it was using the same instrumentation, just different drums, and I just really enjoyed going from one to the other. So yeah, that one I really enjoyed, but I put so much time into the original one that I thought I I don't want to. Yeah, I didn't get into it, but yes, I do want to do that. Absolutely, thank you.
But I was wondering, where is the synthwave inspiration? Because I didn't hear any synthwave at all.
No, this one not at all. Absolutely not. This one is from I was inspired by Gregor Salto, who does sort of Afro house, Latin
Yeah,
house.
Afro house party music. That's the one.
Yeah, and actually the thing about it, the monkey sample is in one of his songs. That it's not the exact one, but uh, I clearly took inspiration from it. So I named the song Salto Salvo because I didn't want anyone accusing me of ripping someone off unknowingly. But it's a different track, but it's yeah. So.
Yeah, in my opinion, you should. I mean, I'm surprised you're not, working for this kind of people in a successful Afro reggae project.
But I probably don't know these kinds of people, so it's probably the big problem.
Yeah,
I'm
find
sure
a.
it's not talent or hard work. I'm sure I do that. But
Did you use like stems or VSTs for like what was the process, Peter? Like it was.
I'm trying to that one I did a little while ago. Usually, I'm trying to think. I mean, often at this point, like I really enjoy using vocals in my music, and so I generally comb over a lot of vocal samples on Splice, and I find something I like, and I build around it. I don't think that's what I did here, but generally, like I was trying to emulate this one particular song, and so I make a point. I want the bass line, the chords, the melody parts to be mine and synth based. So I use FL Studio. So I also it might be Serum. Um, Flex is a good one on FL Studio, Harmor, but I try to do most of that, and then I'll usually add a live instrument that I get from Splice. So often it's a horn or something. So I try to keep it to a minimum about what I'm using sample wise. But so the horns are from Splice, and the top end. So usually the sort of hi hats. But the bass, the toms, those sorts of things, I try to do on my own. And I keep doing more things on my own, but I only have so many hours in a day.
Nice, nice. Well, it's very clean. I'm repeating, but really
Yeah.
nice stereo field, as Phil mentioned in the comments too.
Yeah, I felt
But-
like you had stuff kind of placed throughout the stereo field, so it was everything had room, so you could hear the individual instruments. There wasn't any mud at all that I could tell. I was looking at it on my analyzer, and everything was nice and clean, and mixed pretty well. So no, I think you're going in the right direction.
Well, thank you. Honestly, that means so much to me because yeah, I, I'm in a bit of a bubble. I mean, I've got two kids, and yeah,
All
I
of
mean,
us are in a
full
bubble.
career. Yeah, yeah. So it's nice to hear, and it's nice to see that you put it through some kind of analyzer. And but yeah, yeah. So thank you guys. That's great to hear. I appreciate that.
Peter, what about the stringy guitar sounds? How were those rendered?
Those ones were there was a couple samples that you mean at the end there.
Yep, the
The
sort
last
of Afro
ones?
poppy. Yep, yep.
Yeah, so those were basically we had like two or three notes on a splice sample, but they were individual. There's my word. Individual samples of two or three notes, and I kind of put them together, added effects, and used the same reverb that I had on the rest of the stuff. But no, I did not. Those weren't MIDI. Really, for me, any instrument that you hear that, oh, this is a live instrument, I've taken a sample from somewhere. If it sounds like a synth, it's mine. I've programmed it. I've made the melody. But if it's a sax, it was a great riff. I thought would complement the song well.
Daddy,
I'd like to get.
Daddy, there was that guy.
Yeah, these guys are all superstars. They all make music.
Hi there.
All right. I know. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing.
What's that
Excellent
guy,
stuff
Mommy?
as usual. And we had a future musician there that's getting an early start, so
Mhm.
the right place. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again, and we will spin the wheel. Okay, and Drew.
Yeah. So this track I posted a few months back. I guess I completed it probably about 6 months back. And I'm I like the track. It's just I don't know if it makes sense to other people. Just the way the notes go together and the instruments I've used are a little I don't know, I find them to be a little unconventional, but I guess maybe you guys could be the judges and tell me if it works or not. It's called Milan Point 2.
Okay, I will slide this across here, set this up real quick.
it leaves room for everything else. Like it's not pushing down the center and pushing everything out somehow.
Okay.
Pushing down the center and pushing everything out somehow.
Okay.
I like
Yeah,
the
so-
melody. It's really cool. I wish you had a little bit of side chaining though on that pad that goes like make it wavy, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, it's cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my meters, Andrew, but everything was, I was hearing it and then I noticed it on the metering. It just like the channels seemed a little bit like off. And
Okay.
the stereo field was kind of like pumping towards the left. So like it sounded like the drums instead of being center were kind of like right here. So
Okay.
look at your panning on your mix. But other than that, I really like the track. I like the mix, the melodies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you find the sounds a little conflicting or
No,
anything?
no, not at all.
Okay. Oh,
those
okay.
are some cool effects, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, I liked the beginning. It seemed to have a very basic start, and it felt like a great track. But when I forgot about a minute in or something, when some of the more of the pads came in, it just I was happy with the sound before, but when that came in, it was like, oh, okay, this is much more full. And I can also echo what Philip is saying in that you did hear it just left to center. You could hear the sub just left to center, like a lot of it felt like sort of 15% from the center, but
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll have to take a look back into it and see what I did. It's been a little while, but yeah. Okay, guys. Thanks for the input. And yeah, I didn't see your meter there, Phil, but hopefully I'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
I tried to put it on camera, but like you can see everything here is the blue is in the center.
If
Yeah.
you share your screen,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you're prepared to do so. If not, not a big deal. But if you do share it in
Yeah.
Zoom, I could probably figure that out too, Phil. But
Yeah.
it's
No,
up
I
to you.
I can do that.
Yeah, I can basically, rather than share like just the sound cloud in that case, I could like switch over to the meter, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've done that in
but-
the past, so we could give it a try. Sure.
But because it's a useful
It's
tool.
easier. Yeah, it's easier now. I have two monitors before, or three monitors actually. Before it was kind of a pain in the ass because I would have to switch monitors, mute this, and switch to another monitor, bring up the thing. So it's a lot easier
Right,
now.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
You're gonna have to,
but yeah.
you're gonna have to enable screen sharing for other people to share their screens before that happens.
Yeah, right. I gotta remember where to do that again.
I'm gonna run and grab another.
I figured it out. Participants. Well, actually, I do have that though. I have allow participants to share a screen.
To have the power.
Oh, actually, wait a minute. I misread that. It's unchecked. I see. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna, speaking of sharing screen, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But thank you for sharing, Andrew, as always.
Okay.
Great
Thanks,
stuff.
guys.
Okay. All right, Fostel.
Yes.
Now you sent 2 tracks. I personally, I don't want to. I really like that Russian cover, but just to throw it out there.
Yeah, I can play that.
But do you want to talk about it before we play it?
Yeah, so it's a cover of a song Spokojnaya Noć, written in the Soviet Union by an alternative rock artist, post-punk artist. They were having a lot of trouble back then trying to get their records out and even to perform live. So this guy and his band were completely banned, couldn't even sell records or play live, and but it remained like a legend within the people who were listening to music in Russia. So when Gorbachev came and it was like a more friendlier Russia, they allowed this music to appear. Then sadly the guy in the early 90s died, so he wasn't able to compose any more music. I think it was a very unique vibe. I don't know any Russian myself. Sometimes I read what these lyrics are about. And this particular song, it's about like the vibe of like a calm night. and it's like a melancholic, calm night, and you're just chilling, you know. So, but you can also imagine the song to be whatever you want. I discovered this artist by playing a video game called Metro Exodus, and I was fiddling around on the radio, discovered the radio station, and it was on there. The game is produced by Ukrainians, and you know, now we are in a terrible situation with these two countries. But you know, I'm glad I discovered the music, and you know, hopefully you'll like it too. I made my own version. The first version is like more post-punk rock stuff, but this one I made it a bit deeper, in my opinion, like not necessarily better, not better than the original song, but I made it in my own style. And I think it's okay. I'm experimenting with mixing my own vocals and tracks. And so the last thing I want to say is that the backing vocals I try to do is not necessarily the best performed, but you know, it's good enough for the experiment. So I hope you will also get entrenched into the melancholy of the post-punk universe from a faraway place.
All right, let's give it a spin.
Крыши домов дрожат под тяжестью дней. Небесный пастух пасет облака. Город стреляет в ночь дробью огней. Но ночь сильней, ей власти велика. Тем, кто ложится спать, спокойного сна. Спокойная ночь. Тем, кто ложится спать, спокойного сна. Спокойная ночь. Я ждала то время, и вот это время пришло. Те, кто молчал, перестали молчать. Те, кому нечего ждать, садятся в седло. Их не догнать, уже не догнать. Тем, кто ложится Нечего ждать, отправляются в путь. Те, кто спасен, те, кто спасен, а тем, кто ложится спать, спокойного сна. Спокойная ночь тем, кто ложится спать, спокойного сна. Спокойная ночь. Спокойного сна. Спокойная ночь. Спокойного сна. Спокойная ночь.
Excellent.
Yeah, very cool. I liked the instrumentation, especially like the synth sounds that were kind of just ethereal there, kind of like you could hear them coming in and out behind the voice. I really like
I try
the
to add
patch.
dynamic stuff into the instrumentation that's not straight, you know, just
Right.
make sure there's movement in it, in
Oh, yeah.
anything,
hmm
even
I
if
really like the
there's
guitar element, Vostel. I
Mhm.
remember I heard different versions of this. I remember the first version I liked was really good. It was just guitar and you singing. And then I heard the synthwave version. I was like, I was so stuck on the first version I heard, you know, the subtleties of it. For whatever reason, I was like, you know.
well,
But then when you added the guitar on this version, I was like, okay, here it is. You know what I mean? And
yeah, and
I
this
just
in
think
this
it came
version,
together really well.
thank you, man. Well, in this version, the guitar is just somewhere there, you know, like it's not supposed to be
Right.
the main instrument, but it's there, like you can hear it. If you focus on it, you will hear an acoustic guitar. But yeah, the first version I made, like, because I was trying to find the proper chords that go for my voice. So I was constantly trying to start the song on the guitar on different notes until I find the one I felt most comfortable with, and the one that I thought that transmits the most character with the timbre of my voice. Once I found it, I immediately went to the computer and made the song as you hear it. It was a process, though. Sometimes these effects cause a lot of white noise and stuff like that, so I have to battle to get a clean mix. And so this is the final one that everything is clear in this, I think.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, I found the vocals were very bare. Didn't seem like there was a lot on them, but they really mix in well with the song. Like you kind of felt like you were in a small place listening to somebody express themselves over a
It's a
microphone
calm
and
night.
Yeah,
it was very personal and intimate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I like
Yeah.
the harmonies too that you had with the vocals, where you brought in like the second harmonization part too in places. Yeah.
Yeah, the original song didn't have any harmonizing, so I was like, okay, in the second half, I'm gonna add some.
Yeah. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, but when it comes to processing of the vocals, not much, like you said. It's just a little bit of saturation to enhance certain frequencies and give them a little bit more richness, but that's it. And the reverb and whatever, but that's it. A little bit of EQ, but and just it
Even
fit. It
reverb was
fits,
very
you know.
small. Even
Hey,
reverb was very small. Which I mean, it really was.
subtle,
Yes,
subtle stuff.
yes.
That's the key for this song.
And you again, you're not actually a Russian speaker, so even though
No.
you did a Russian cover, just to
No, I
remind
don't
people,
understand a single word I said except for Spokojная ночь. But I have a specialist. I have a Russian girl who works at the nuclear power plant, and and it's funny because my passion also for this music comes from playing a game like Stalker, for example, where it's you are out there in the Chernobyl exclusion zone where something happened and there was an explosion, but there's also something paranormal going on. So you're going around there trying to find irradiated artifacts that have some kind of magical properties, and then you try to sell them to make a fortune. But it's very dangerous, and a lot of adventures happen, and you kill mutants with your shotgun and stuff like that. So it's a very unique type of game, unique atmosphere. So my friend happens to work at the nuclear power plant, so it fit. And then she taught me how to pronounce every single word. And for some, I had to re-understand the philosophy. Like, for example, when you say words that are just like, you know, you would go like internet, for example. Let's say this one because everyone understands. Like in Russian, they pronounce every word that is like with the e sound. They would add an e, like they would have like a niet, internet, and instead of veterinary, it would be like veterinary. You know, everything is yeah on everything, and so there's little particularities on every little thing. So it was really fun for me to go through this process, and eventually she said that I sound almost like a native speaker. So I was happy with that. trying to keep it authentic. If I'm ever going to put this online, I don't want to sound like I'm butchering something.
Well, it's online now, Vostel. So,
yeah.
But it sounded great anyway. From my ears, admittedly, I couldn't tell Russian probably from Romanian, to be honest. Well, I probably could actually.
No,
but
I'm just saying if some Russian guy will ever listen to it, I don't want him to be like, you're disrespecting my language. So that's why
we're all friends here.
I try to put the diligence, you know.
Right.
And my respect for the initial artist, which, like I said, battled trying to sell his records in that place. So
yeah,
it was the same situation here in Romania. There's a famous rock band which left the country in speakers on a truck. So they had like big speakers and they were hiding in the speakers. So that's how they left the country and went to Germany and lived there.
That's amazing.
Everyone was trying to escape. They weren't allowed to live with their talent the way they wanted to express. So
well, music is dangerous, right? At least according to the ruling party at that time in the Soviet Union, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I guess we know what the reason is, but yeah, that's awesome, and it's very interesting culturally, especially being from North America. We don't get a lot of European, especially Eastern European, or even Central European. I mean, at least from like, you know, underground stuff, like, you know, that you sometimes dig up. I mean, even in your radio shows, Vostok, you're always digging up music.
Well, even for me, it's foreign sound, but you know, I try to say words like "отправляются в путь." Like, come on, what word is that? You know?
You got me.
Wait, that's one word?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so we might go around the wheel again, but for now we're doing one track each. But I know Vostok, I'm always itching to hear your tune, so hopefully we'll get a chance afterwards to hear the other one. Pretty sure we will. But thank you again for sharing.
Thank you,
I'm
man.
gonna go ahead and spin the wheel. Alrighty. Philip.
Yeah, so this is a track I made last month, kind of synthwave-ish. It's called Forever Is Now. I decided to revisit a VST I haven't played with recently, and it's the VPS Avenger. Vengeance VPS Avenger. And so everything you hear is from that synth, including drums. So I think Richard, I played this at your house when I was up there. But anyway, yeah, just I think I know a few things I want to tweak on it, and maybe do with, but just interested to hear some feedback on it.
All right, I'll set it up. Listen.
So that was super cool. Like, uh, but, I didn't catch the synth that you were using, but like it just had a really authentic feel to it. Uh, the one thing I noticed, which I yeah, it didn't have a lot of like the snares and the kick drums. They were very present, but they didn't have a big bottom end. So they didn't hit like they hit in a high end way, but they didn't hit in a low end way, and I didn't miss it at all. Which like I'm the guy to miss that sort of thing. I like to say, oh, geez, it doesn't thump, but it didn't bother me at all. I loved the sounds. It had a real sense of space, and uh, so I loved it. I thought it was really great.
Sometimes you can have the aesthetic, you pursue it. Like for a song like this, like a chill wave, kind of breezy song, that you just go in the evening, at night, on a nice walk with your girlfriend, or with your car, your convertible Testarossa. Like I think that it's perfect. You don't necessarily need something to give you like a big boom. I'm very much a fan of fundamentals in snares, but in this track, it's just nice. It kind of hangs out there in the higher frequency spectrum. I thought this was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that song, the response
drum
the response you created with that synthesizer, sometimes the communication between the synths are cool. Like sometimes you came in with that da 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 bum 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 bum. Like that was really cool to me, man. I really felt
that
that.
was like the call and response.
Yeah, I felt that. It got my head nodding, and I'm sincerely saying that I like the song,
Cool.
So, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Real quick, I think Vosto nailed it in that that you took the fundamental away from the snare. I don't know about the kick drum, but it worked so well. And I mean that's something I'm trying to get away from. I always want my car to hum when I'm driving down the street, and it's not always necessary, and I struggle with taking that out. And I mean, yeah, yours that was a fantastic piece. Like I said, without or like Foster said, with that fundamental out of the snare, it still hit perfectly the way I liked it. Yeah, so it's inspirational. I gutsy and well executed in my mind.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was, if you listen to 80s tracks, you got the Linn drum type thing with the kick is solid, but it's not real boomy. And then the snare is typically gated. And anyway, that was a drum kit on the VPS Avenger. I can't remember which expansion it's from, but that was the one I used to play all of the drum patches.
And then everything sounded balanced in your mix, bro. I like that a lot. There's no craziness. Like in my songs, there's a lot of craziness. But I felt like your song could be played. It's not an experimental song. It's an actual, chill song with inspiration from the 80s. So it knows what it is, and that's really cool.
Would sound good on Night Ride FM, I think, personally.
Yeah, that could go on Night Ride FM 100%.
Well, last time, Vosto, you said of my other track, I'm like, it would be nice to have some stuff for that. So I said, yeah, I've got one. that was the one. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. I got my wish.
Good stuff.
The other thing I noticed, since you put all the meters up, I noticed that I mean you had a very flat spectrogram. It was very flat, which I sort of aim for, but you never quite get quite that flat.
Yeah, you almost want it going down slightly from bass to treble.
Sure.
So treble over here, bass over here. So that's kind of the goal, is to go that direction. I mean, I'm not looking at meters when I'm composing it, but definitely I review it with the meters. Trust my ears first, but then I look at the meters. I'm like, is anything sticking out kind of weirdly? Is the bass, is that mono? Are the treble fits too high versus the bass? So you're aiming for stuff, but not always do you get there.
It didn't sound like you went and compressed the whole mix
No.
to get it.
I did use some side chaining to let the kick and the bass come through a little bit, but that's really I try not to over compress. When I first started doing tracks, I was like, oh, I got to compress it and got to make it loud and all that stuff. But I get to a point in the mix where everything kind of sounds right, and then the final polish is just sending it through ozone. And that gets me the levels I need without fucking around with the mix, pardon my French. So
I find
think-
even using the maximizer from Ozone
Mhm,
in line in your DAW and even master rebalance can be a good
mhm.
trick for certain scenarios. But
Yeah, I try to avoid as much of that stuff when I'm mixing the song and creating the song, and then kind of at the end, then I start to work it a little bit
well,
without.
whatever you're doing you're doing it right. I mean, it sounds great, and it's
Thanks.
not just
I
this
appreciate.
track. I mean,
I
a
mean,
lot of your tracks.
it's
I'm
like
talking
Peter's
from
though.
all.
You feel like you're in a vacuum or a bubble sometimes, so it's good to hear that it's sounding good on other systems. Because I play it on my headphones, I play it on my monitors, I play it in the car, I play it on my iPhone when I'm in bed at night, and
That's the ultimate test sometimes.
yeah, seems to work.
You know?
But yeah, oh, and I played it at Richard's house, so it sounded pretty awesome in his setup. So yeah.
I got a
Yeah.
Bluetooth speaker now, and lately my neighbors have been hearing some of the mixes. I think outside in the backyard.
Yeah, there you
I have
go.
it up my sleeve, because every once in a while they'll be playing some of the hits from from decades past, and so I'm like,
Uh-huh.
okay, you know what, I gotta balance the equilibrium here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For every, you know what I mean, one of theirs, I gotta throw one of mine. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my
sometimes
neighbors usually have their radio on a little too loud, and I think like if you want a loud radio, like I'll give it to you, and I'll give you some objectionable stuff that you enjoy.
put on Rect FM or something.
Yeah, no.
Some heavy sounds. But
The visualizer, I just wanted to say, for a
Yeah.
lot of our long-term members, that visualizer that Philip shared, we've been looking at that for years. Even when we were in
Mhm.
person, we used to have a big video projector and we would throw it
Mhm.
on the wall, and it was always multi-purpose. So it's interesting now online. It still has its purpose. It's very useful, but in the in-person meetup, sometimes we'd be like in a circle and you're kind of listening to music and you're like, okay, what do my eyes focus on? And then when we had that visual there, the meters, it was like, oh, like it was good
Mhm.
for technical purposes, but it was also good to have something to focus on. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
but like I say, now that we're online, I think it's useful because I mean you always point out oftentimes you'll point out like you can see your stereo image, for example. You can see so many
Yeah.
things with that meter, so it's an extremely
Yeah, it was quite revealing with Andrew's song. That's what led me to. I'm like, I'm hearing it with my ears, and I wasn't looking at the meter at first, and then I looked at the meter. Yeah, something's going on with that, with the channel. Like it's pushing some stuff to the left. So it kind of lets you kind of reinforces what you kind of think you're hearing sometimes. So
Yeah. But I mean, I find it can also completely distract you, right?
Yeah.
But it's fascinating because you really have to get a mix of both. But I find like since we put the meter up, I think which is 2 or 3 songs, but yours was very distinctive from what I've looked at, and just this perfect cut across the board. Peaks are nice, like so. Anyways, another compliment, I think.
Yeah, well, I was noticing that on everybody's tracks tonight. I mean, I didn't see anything kind of out of whack other than the stereo field on Andrew's song, and I think he may have something that's like out of filter or something that he accidentally shifted. So anyway,
Yeah.
Maybe it depends what you're aiming for. I
Mhm.
feel, for example, if you want a good radio track or a very functional track, then yeah, sure, you go for that feeling of space thing and being constant.
Mhm.
But if you're making a more experimental
track.
track, then
Mhm.
it's fine to have like
Oh yeah,
a little bit of play. Like have you
yeah,
probably have you seen on my song? Like, sometimes it
yeah.
spikes here, but then that goes away, and it's something here, and then it's
Or you
something.
or you could have the bass frequencies like really drifting apart, and that could be effective depending on the genre. Yeah.
Yeah, or where you sculpted something you didn't want,
Mhm.
may appear there. I don't know. I'm just talking.
No, but that really, like I said before, whatever you're doing, Phil, or just keep doing it. It's really excellent. So
Thank you.
thanks.
Phil,
for sharing.
did the drums come first? Did the melody come first? Do you remember
Definitely
how it all
the
came together?
melody. Drums to me typically start to come towards the end because I'm really working on chord structure and sound design and melody, counter melody. So the drums really start to happen maybe midway through the song. And that's
Lost your sound there.
We've been muted.
No, it's not me.
Yeah,
What?
you muted suddenly.
Now he is. He wasn't.
Muted. Oh, I think he
He's
just took a
he's
call.
on a call. All right.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and share my screen there. But yeah, that was
Awesome.
Well, $10 says it's Richard. Oh,
yeah,
damn it.
yeah, $10.
Oh, you took that bet? Oh, you took that bet, Lenny? All right, you only took $10.
Oh, I'm just confirming the winning bet. That's all.
I don't know.
I don't actually gamble. But
We're going to
Richard,
admit it.
yes, I was saying earlier when we started, I don't know if you had joined, that I had opened up the conversation saying that, you had mentioned that there's a bias towards longer pieces of music. And when you had originally brought that topic up, I hadn't really thought about it, but then I realized really in the last century is when music has become a lot shorter. But I would arguably say that prior to that, I mean, music has actually been longer pieces for the longest time. So, but regardless, if you make a tune over 10 minutes these days, like you were saying, you bump up against some of the thresholds, I believe, on a lot of the streaming platforms. So
That's
I
true.
can't say I haven't made a 10-minute tune actually in a long time. So I can't say I've experienced that myself, but I opened up
I
the
think
invitation to Richard. I said, Richard, by all means, if you want to come to the table with a track that exceeds 10 minutes, and I was good for even a few hours, but you sent an 11-minute track. That's I'm looking
I have
forward
a
to it.
few. I have a few.
Nice. Just got
Well,
before.
yep.
So is this a collaboration, Richard? I mean, I noticed a
Yep.
different artist name. So
Right. So let's see. Can I share my screen?
sure,
May I share my screen? I think
absolutely.
it's this one. This one, share. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. So now for something completely different.
Oh, nice.
I'm not playing one of my tracks tonight, but I am really excited to have the opportunity to talk to this group because you have such sophisticated tastes and patience, and you're generally folks who I've listened to speak on these calls are just genuinely curious people and are open to different things. So. Um, I haven't talked about this, so forgive me if I stumble around a little bit because I haven't found a sort of efficient way to talk about it. But I'm going to share with you all a project I'm working on now involving the history of wave makers. And so in fact, in the chat, I will put the link to this. But the wave maker is a relatively obscure make of modular synthesizer made in the 70s and 80s by this guy named Terry Kincaid. And this website commemorates a lot of that equipment. This fellow, actually, I'm going to scroll a little bit. The company that produced it was a joint venture with this fellow named David Bates, PhD in music composition back in the 70s. And then also Terry Kincaid. Here's Terry Kincaid as a young man fooling with his crazy stuff that he did at the University of Michigan, I believe, where he got a PhD also in composition and electronic music. And he developed this line of synthesizers. It was a joint venture, and it was called KB, and it was K for Kincaid and B for Bates. That's the story here. I came in contact with this when I was in graduate school back in the 80s in Austin, Texas. And I was studying, and I believe I found a reference here to this fellow here, Barton McLean. I studied composition under this fellow in the electronic music studios there. And as it turns out, Barton McLean knew Terry Kincaid. Terry Kincaid designed several modules for him. And in the electronic music studios at that time, and I'm going to switch to these photos here. There's a bunch of photos of all this equipment. This is a Wave Maker Model 4. There were several of these in the studio at the time, and the project that I'm working on is the anthology, the collection of a fellow by the name of Rick Peterson, who I think is the world's most renowned or virtuoso master of the Wavemaker synthesizer, which is a very odd modular synthesizer indeed. These recordings were made in the early 80s, probably. And suffice to say, life went on. I went off in a different direction. Rick Peterson stayed in Austin. He's still there today. I've recently reached out to him almost a year ago now and started inquiring about what happened to all of those recordings. There were hours and hours of experimental recordings done in the studio, a lot of them on the Wavemaker. And so in February, I went to Austin and I started retrieving these files, and I recovered hours and hours and hours of what had been transferred wave files. So they had gone from half-inch 8-track audio stream to DAT in the early 90s. From DAT, they were transferred to CD in the early 2000s. And then I recovered all the CDs. And I've spent the last few months going through these recordings. And mind you, it's not like they were in a DAW and they produced sounds in each song, or each track was an individual file. This was like putting a half-inch piece of tape on a machine, pressing the play button, and then turning the DAT on and recording it. And so there were hours and hours of linear recordings. I had to go through and listen, find where all the beginnings and the ends were, snip them, make individual WAV files out of all the files. And that's what I've been doing for the last few months. And it's definitely reduced what I've produced myself. But what I'm working towards is to re-release this collection of Wavemaker sounds and songs produced by Rick Peterson in the early 80s. And I just want to say one more thing, and then I'll be quiet and we can play a piece. But both of these fellows have passed away in the 90s and about 10 years ago for Terry Kincaid. Excuse me. But our composition professor, one moment.
It's your time.
I get so excited. So Barton McLean, before Kincaid died, Barton McLean recalled this anecdote where he played this piece, Natural Causes, which was composed by Rick Peterson, to Kincaid before he died. And it was so moved, he wrote back saying, this is what it was all about. So this is Natural Causes, I think, is probably one of the premier compositions produced on this sort of esoteric analog synthesizer from the 80s. And I wanted to share it with you tonight.
Oh yeah.
Wow, awesome.
That's my story.
Well, that
I've
was
heard
the
it already.
answer
Awesome.
that that answered my question. Thank you very much, Richard. And yeah, let's give this a whirl. I'm looking forward to hearing it. So this is
Want me to do
a longer.
the
Yeah, do the
okay, I'll do
visualizer, sure.
Yeah, let's watch it for sure.
So this is a roughly 11 minutes. So, sit back and enjoy, turn it up, and let's.
That's probably the first time that piece has been played in more than quarter of a century. You guys heard it for the first time.
Yeah, tell them
It's a
a
good
little bit
honor.
about, tell them when it was like first played in the darkened room. And
Yeah, we didn't have the benefit of your meters to look at, so
Yeah.
but in the earlier days of electronic music, I to your point, Lenny, about long pieces and all of that. One of the obstacles is just the short attention span of the listener, right? People, either they don't want it, or they don't think that they want it, or it's not interesting enough, or people's interest wanders after a while. So if you're going to do that, Vosto, I love the idea of the hour-long piece. How do you keep the listener
With
engaged, right?
visuals.
That's the key, right? And
Well, back
so
then and even now,
the,
well, actually, it's true. There was drug use. I
Oh,
was going to say, like, if you did acid, for
well,
example,
that
you
did
know,
help. That did help for sure.
but the thing is, people are still doing acid,
I
and
mean,
the
I'm very
attention span,
intrigued by the
you
sound.
know,
I
it's
wouldn't
an
go.
interesting question. Sorry, Boston.
I
No,
think
so I'm the one to say sorry, but I'm just wanting, I just want to say that it's like unusual type of modulation that you don't necessarily hear it on a VST unless you really know what you're doing. But here
Yeah, I
it
was
seems
going to
like
say
you got some really cool sounds, man. Like stuff
it's
that's
pretty good
similar to FM8, stuff that
for
you,
a three oscillator monophonic
yeah,
synthesizer
how,
analog with drifting oscillators, really unstable electronics. And so a lot of those,
yeah, the
not being able to
quirkiness
land the
maybe
note
comes from that.
as the machine warmed up, the oscillators drifted, so
Yeah,
that
detuned a
introduced
bit.
all sorts of exactly detuning and unexpected
But now
results.
that
But
translates into character in today's.
I like it. Yeah,
See, because people were trying to get more clean stuff, like in the 90s, the digitalizing, like we all know the story, right? But as things got so perfect, we are in search for character. So,
Yeah,
man, I really want
the
to
irony.
I want to hear more of that. Like, I want you to put out a band camp with like
so
maybe separate the
here's the
tracks into
deal.
10 minutes each or something, and
No,
then
no,
I want to get it.
here's the deal. So I've spent hours, I mean days and days, to be honest. I have almost 15 hours worth of material now. And so I'm heading to Austin on Saturday, and we're having a long session. And I've made this master list of all these things. And I'm going to have Rick, who's a little older than we all. I'm older than you guys. He's older than I am. So I'm trying to get this out before he croaks. And he's totally into it. But the guy doesn't have a computer, understands what a DAW is, but never seen one. Has definitely gone. He's in a different world. So, I'm having him listen. I burned all of those WAV files to audio CDs because he has a CD player. And then there's detailed notes for every single track. And I'm going to have him go through and write down when that was recorded with instrumentation, et cetera. And then we're going to pick pieces. And the reason I'm playing this is I've already talked to Phil about this a month ago or so. I think we need, I would, I'm putting out an offer. If you're interested in being involved, I'm just interested in playing pieces for folks, and you all help pick out. I mean, you've got hours worth of material. Which ones would you put together in what order, and that sort of thing, and then release it. Absolutely, I think there's enough for 3 volumes of things, Vostro. To be honest, hours and hours and hours worth of material. Obviously, some more interesting than others, some more finished than others. And then the other surprise for me was I uncovered 2, 3, 4 different mixes, 4 different equalization versions of the same thing. So there's tons and tons of material. It's super interesting to listen to if you have the patience.
Yeah, I mean,
Please let Lenny know whenever you release something with that stuff. Let Lenny know because
Yeah,
I wanna
and
listen to that stuff when I'm playing my space games. I want to listen to those
sure,
amazing
send over the
sounds.
links, and we can help. If you want us to listen to just choose which tracks are most interesting, from
Yep.
different people. Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah.
great.
I mean, I don't want to be gauche, but I mean, I would take some of those, I would just chop those up into 4-bar loops, some of those things, or 2 bars. Like the sounds that are coming out of those are very unique. So, I mean, you might even think about a sample pack where, you're just taking short clips of it because people don't have the attention span, but there are some really rocking sounds in there that people would repurpose for their own thing. So yeah, I mean that's what I would look for to use in my own music is just short clips of really fascinating, fun stuff, and I think that's where you're going to get a wider audience.
Yep.
And you can say, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you could do a remix. We
Yeah.
could
How about doing
remix,
Both, yeah.
projects.
Have the
Yeah,
original
exactly. You
and then
have
a
the
remix.
originals, then you do remix and edit versions that you can maybe engage different artists like us or even others, and have them, turn these into use it in kind of modern context, which would be kind of interesting. Yeah.
I'm doing everything I possibly can to salvage these things because to me, they're fabulous. They're fantastic, super interesting. And you just got a flavor. That was just one piece, guys,
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't tell you. So when I went to Austin to finally do the deal, let's look at these CDs. And he led me into the garage, and in the garage, there's a refrigerator, and in the refrigerator, there's a styrofoam refrigerator, and in the styrofoam refrigerator is where all these tapes are. They've been there for 40 years in this garage, in a refrigerator, waiting. And so for me, the whole thing is around bringing new life to them, having the world hear these things. They definitely merit being heard, and all of the ideas, everything that was just thrown out is fantastic. Open to all of it, and so maybe not the last time, but I really appreciate you all indulging and sitting for patiently and listening. All of the comments are great, and I'm open to any use downstream. However. Any idea that we could have to promote this, that would be great. I know it would make Rick Peterson very happy also.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
very, very unique sound, and I think, yeah, pursue it in any avenue because I really haven't heard anything like that.
One thing that comes to my mind on that note, sorry to interrupt, Peter, but I just
No,
wanted to mention, and I know this is almost too mainstream in a way, but Pink Floyd, Amagama, like that.
Mhm.
It has a lot of that kind of nature sounds, but it's all synth, when you go back and you're like, because I remember back in the day listening to it in nature, if you will, and I was like, wow, these sounds that are totally electronic, they blended so well with the organic, nature that we were in that environment, so.
Yep. That was the premise of Natural Causes, right? You have all of these sort of pseudo organic sounds coming out of this little funky analog synthesizer.
Yeah,
processed through a human being, right? Someone put it all together, and a lot of these pieces were performances at the mixing console, because the way a lot of these came together was the studio was rather large. There were a number of tape recorders, 8 tracks, 4 tracks, etc. All of these were segments of things put on all these machines and then turned on and played and mixed down in the end. That's how it came together in the end. So it's a testament to his mixing ability also.
Yeah, because you're getting all these stereo effects out of monophonic synth lines
in
right?
real time.
Yeah, we did hear the different
things.
tracks. We heard them, yeah.
Yep. So anyways, sorry if I'm excited about it.
No, I'm excited too,
the
man.
deeper I get, it's awesome, and I appreciate your comments. And maybe I'll play another piece next time. There's another one. I think I played it for you, Phil. It's 3 minutes and a half, so it's shorter. It's called Noise, and it's just noise.
Well, one question.
It's incredible.
Is this the best song, or is it just like a random pick? Because I really thought the sounds were interesting, and I wonder if the other experimentation is the same as stimulating and interesting.
Yes. And let me answer it a different way, Vosto. There's like, say, there's 15 or 20 hours worth of material. Is all of it this compose? No. So there's a lot of it that would lend itself to be sampled, a lot of the things that were just discussed here. But there are quite a number of finished pieces, right, that have been composed, mixed down, that are well thought out compositions.
I
Hours.
love to hear that, man. I would just
Okay.
like to have it running through the like in the room, all day.
I think it's
Well,
fantastic, and I think it's unique, and well worth pursuing. And if you're passionate about it, all of that, I mean, really good for you. It's not a waste of time. I've heard some stuff that people are passionate about, and I think, well, maybe you should find another passion. But this was, I mean, really unique. It feels like the plucks are plucking, like it's reverberating in a space, and I don't know. I really liked it. Very organic sounding, very strong.
That's great. I will pass
Yeah,
this
and
comments
Richard,
along.
I owe you homework too, so I'm hoping to have some time
Yep.
this weekend.
Yep. Thank you
Well,
all. Appreciate it.
thank you, and that's what this is all about, So, Richard, we are more than happy to share and listen to what you have, and we're like I say, that's what I think is unique about this meetup in particular is the range of music is just quite wide, and I consider that a huge positive. But anyway, I guess I'm the last guy on the list here. And so I have actually 3 tunes that I've been wondering to play, but I'm just going to choose one now and play it and see what you guys think. So
You want the meters?
give it a spin. Yeah, sure. Curious to see what it looks like. Thanks.
I wanted that drop, Lenny. I said, Lenny, I wanted that drop at the end there. It was it was awesome. It sounded amazing, and it was. I mean, it was. Yeah, I love the just like Phil was saying, such a fat bass. Everything sounded great, but I wanted that drop at the end. I was really excited.
Yeah, you need to extend this one out. Definitely worth taking further. I can almost hear some vocal hits like hey, 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 like some Middle Eastern chants or something, and then that one section with the rim shot. I just really wanted to like pop through
Yeah.
before you get back into the drum and bass drums. But yeah, really nice song. I loved it.
Sounded Latin to me. I mean, you say Middle Eastern, but I felt like the beat was
Yeah.
very Latin,
Spanish.
kind of. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
heard
sure.
Middle
Like a
Eastern
real-
in my mind,
like
but
a dance track, like a more of a Latin style dancing or whatever, but switched up with drum and bass.
I know
put some
I know what you
flamenco
mean.
in there.
Yeah, I heard the Middle Eastern feel to it as well. I can't put my
No.
finger on it, but definitely. But
Oh,
I love. I
yeah.
mean, the bass was just on its own, just booming away and not bothering any of the other elements. Like all the other elements just seem to exist without being just like. I always find bass seems to interact with the other ones, and your guys, everything was so clear. It seemed like they were almost in different rooms. I mean,
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And that was actually something I've been trying to work on, and I noticed that myself with a lot of production tracks that I hear. And I feel like this time, there's that kind of two parallel, they both work together, but you could just focus on one, for example, and it kind of serves that purpose. But I still think there's a lot to be done in terms of the sound quality, but I was pretty happy with the arrangement. But yeah, you guys think it's too short? Yeah, I could extend it a bit.
Yeah.
I don't have any complaints. I liked it. Just like it's a cool beat. And I think the others weren't complaining either. They just want to hear more of it.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
absolutely.
I sometimes, like I'm sure you guys find yourselves in
It's
a
good though.
similar
It did the job.
circumstance where you sometimes don't even know what your own music sounds like until a little bit later and you hear it. This track, I kind of let it sit for a bit, and like I say, I have another few tracks up my sleeve that I'm pretty happy with and have a similar dynamic, if you will. Although they're not like Latin per se, but just with like a more separate bass, basically, like a real presence. And I did use the master rebalance, by the way, in Ozone.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that, well, it definitely helps, right? So you can kind of exaggerate either the drums, bass, or vocals. It's a very simple little module, but certainly does a trick. I actually use it a lot of times for vocals. So sometimes I'll have tracks where the vocals sound like they're a little bit too distant, and I'll use that, and it makes it more, upfront, more present. But
Mhm.
it works pretty good with bass. It depends on the situation, I suppose. But
Now, are you talking about a song that you've composed and mixed and then thrown into Ozone? Or are you talking
no,
about someone else's track?
no, in line. So in my own track.
Yeah,
What I mean to say is, I sometimes will put it on the individual channel and or the master mix, and then if I feel like the bass needs a little bit more presence, it's just a simple way to do it, right?
yeah. I
And
mean, because
it doesn't seem to eat up as much real estate either. Like somehow they have some type of algorithm going where you're boosting the presence of the bass, and yet you're not conflicting with the other
Mhm.
frequencies. You know what I mean? It has that ability somehow.
yeah, because I mean, I use Ozone, but like generally, I mix it as well as I can and keep it a little quiet, and then I run it through Ozone. Um, but I mean, for me, if I thought, well, my vocal's too quiet, I would go back to the mixing stage and push it up, or
Oh,
my
for sure.
drums.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
would
No,
you?
there's circumstances where I have like so many overlapping samples and the vocals are like buried, for example, in like a mix of a mix of a mix, and then you know what I mean? It's hard to describe. Sometimes I'm dealing with a
But
remix, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And so you've got like you know, not as much control to go in and isolate the vocals. But if you have that control, I absolutely agree. Yeah, you go in right in directly. I'm just talking more from kind of the ghetto side of the
Yeah, I
production
mean,
world.
I'm just wondering if you find it has an extra effect because I pay good money for the bloody program, and if I don't need to go into my mixer, and it kind of makes it pop in a way that's
It
different from
does.
that.
No, it does.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. See, that's the other
interesting.
thing, actually, come to think of it. Yes, in your DAW, let's say just on your mixer, you could just increase the volume, right? Then maybe deal with the EQ. Well, with the master rebalance, I don't know what kind of AI they got going, but it allows you to do that without increasing the dBs, without, you know what I mean? From an
Right,
EQ perspective, it doesn't muddy the mix.
right.
So
It's
I'm
like
not
almost more of a
actually,
presence, but more
I'm
not
sure
more
there's an
volume.
explanation, and it's probably worth looking into, but Um, and that, I'm not, it's trial and error. I'm not saying it works every single time, right? But that was more or less one of my default components in my chain. I
Hmm.
typically will have maximizer, master rebalance, and then you can. The good thing with Ozone is you can switch through different types of compression and but yeah, like I honestly have another track where I removed compression completely. Like I was dealing with such a situation where any further compression would destroy the sound. So I literally have more or less an unmastered track. Just like I say, it depends on the circumstances, I suppose. But I feel like I
Well,
still have like a ton to
it's not
learn.
unmastered. It's not unmastered. It's uncompressed. Not the same
Right,
thing,
right.
right?
Sorry,
Yep,
uncompressed.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
But
Yeah, because
yeah, this is,
I had it from like, I don't know, 9 LUFs, and I managed to get it to like 4, -4. But it was
Mhm.
like it sacrificed quality, and I just put it back to 9. I'm like, you know what? It's
Mhm.
already loud, frankly. And to your earlier comment, it is a balance. Most of the services that you send music to compresses it anyway. You did show us, Peter, a way to kind of toggle that in Spotify, but you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I always just assume
yeah,
whatever I submit is going to be compressed yet again, basically. So I
yeah.
don't want to overdo it.
Do you know, I wanted to actually, on a bit of a tangent, but I've been recently just ripping a few Spotify tracks. I forgot there's a website where you can do that, and then throwing it in my DAW and looking, actually doing references, which I really haven't done that much of before. And I've noticed so many songs are clipping, like significantly. Uh, they're getting true peaks of, you get a 2.5 minute song, they've got 200 true peaks and 50, 75 times they're clipping. And this is right out of Spotify. Um, and I'm wondering if you guys know anything about that because everything I've always done is just absolutely avoid clipping. Uh, but it
Well,
seems to
Spotify,
be
the
somewhat the
track,
norm.
yeah, the tracks you're ripping are already kind of processed and whatever. And you may not have the best quality reference track then if you're ripping it from directly from the site. If you went from the original masters of that song, which, quite frankly, you're not going to get, you're probably going to see something different. So it might be just artifacts from Spotify platform that
Well,
you're
because
seeing.
I mean, again, forgive me, but I was reading up as we all do, but
Mhm.
someone was talking about, you can't clip it, you can't be past this level. And people said, well, really? Have you looked at it? Because
Mhm.
the major artists are clipping all the time, and for me, that's what I'm seeing, and I'm not ripping it like from what I'm pretty sure it's kind of back end thing where it's actually pulling the Spotify stream. So whatever they are sending to people
Yeah.
is clipping dramatically on the higher genres, like if you're listening to house music or
Yeah, I've seen clipping, no, for sure, because you can't really achieve some of the levels and without some, but it's not, I think it's like extremely, I don't think it's for amateurs. Like these people know what they're
Mhm.
doing. Like you know what I mean? Like they're clipping in a way that's not noticeable. I suppose is the only way I can describe it. You know?
yeah. I mean, from what I get is it's the true peak is clipping, but it's not the you know I guess there's a true peak, which is your absolute transient, which is a millisecond, and that's clipping. But then you've got the rest of the transient, which is 5 milliseconds, which stops clipping. But I ask because again, I'm doing genres that are all very, very loud,
Yeah.
and the idea of not clipping at all, I think, is limiting. But anyways,
Yeah, no, it's a very good question, and you know what I mean? I don't think it's I think it's a work in progress. I think people are pushing it every day as much as it already has been pushed. I know that, and I suppose it could be a mix. That's the other thing I want to say. Like, it's amazing how if your drums are clear, I always say if your kick and snare are clear, the rest could be really distorted and messy, and it kind of, you know what I mean? Sometimes that could be what's happening, like something else is clipping, but the actual instruments that you're focused on perhaps are clean. Just speculating, but
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I'm posting a video that was done quite a while ago in Reason, 8 years ago, actually, but it talks about clipping inside your DAW versus like your final export. I think it would apply to a lot of different DAWs, but it's kind of a good listen because basically don't panic when you're mixing all that stuff. You basically worry about it at the final export. But anyway, I mean, I'm throwing it out there as something to kind of take a look at and see if it
yeah, no, for
makes
sure.
sense. But
Thanks.
it could help kind of demystify some of that stuff maybe. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's the loudness wars really, it depends on the genre of music. But yeah, there are definitely things happening. Like even on radio long ago, I mean, they compressed the crap out of songs because it sounded better on the radio. You wouldn't necessarily buy the CD and hear that same sound, but um, anyway,
Yeah, they
Yeah,
still
I mean,
do. I remember
it's a bit of
hearing.
an art.
I went to the Audio Engineering Society that's here
Hmm.
in Toronto a few months back, and it had to do with loudness perception, LUFS basically.
Hmm.
And they said the CBC radio in Montreal, they're
Hmm.
still using old-fashioned compression. Like I
Oh yeah,
believe it's like an analog compressor, and it just
why change a good thing?
yeah.
It
Well,
works.
and so it's notoriously been a part of radio broadcasting for forever.
Yeah.
well, you notice that when uh, you've got a radio host who's talking, seems to be at a similar volume to the guest, but is always over talking them. Like when the host is talking, they're heard, and when
Uh-huh.
the guest is talking, yeah, they're loud, but yeah, they don't go together. And I'm certain that they're compressing the hell out of the host and not
Oh,
compressing the guest. So Howard Stern gets to just yell over whoever the
well,
hell's on the radio.
the thing too is Howard Stern does that for a living. The interviewee is not necessarily knowing how to project their voice on radio, so the compression is not going to work as well on their voice. So
Plus, they probably
Right.
they
side
have
chain
less
it too, I would
experience.
imagine, right?
Yeah,
Probably.
probably a little bit.
They do that with the music for sure. You'll hear that on a lot of
Yeah.
radio stations, right? It's
Oh yeah,
and
it's
even
pumping.
TV broadcasting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pumping a little
But
bit more.
it was very interesting when I attended this talk or whatever, that classical music, obviously that's where like the compression really can mess up because the levels are so extreme in classical music. So if you over compress classical
Mhm.
music, it just sounds wrong, like it doesn't fit at all.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
mean, you
mean
even get that, sorry, with reverb and stuff. If you're going,
Mhm.
you start compressing your vocal bus a little too much, and all of a sudden, like all the little tiny sounds that you never heard before are right there in the forefront. So
The
much more.
artifacts, yeah.
Yeah.
I get
Well, I
that
mean
a
this.
lot with stems, that when I use like vocal isolation. So that's kind of what I mean. Like sometimes I'll like, oh, hey, I want to grab this sound, and only thing I have is a stereo mix, and so I'll use like ways to extract, and you do get a lot of those imperfections. You know what I mean? So I suppose when I talk about fighting, uh, like bad sound quality and stuff. A lot of times it has to do with weird things like that. Sometimes it can add character though, you know what I mean? It depends on what you're after and how you handle it.
Mhm.
But But yeah,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
it's weird when you get those vocal isolated stems, for example, you hear all those strange reverb like artifacts. It just what the heck is that?
spill from the other mics and whatever. Yeah, I was going to say that that's what the challenge that Richard has in front of him is this super dynamic range content that he has. You know, how do you master that? How do you mix that to coax the best you can get out of it without ruining it? You know, that's a real challenge
Find
on
the
that
middle
kind of
ground,
music. Yeah, yeah,
not break wallet.
yeah.
I'd smash the shit out of it. You'd hate me for it. I'm not the man for the job.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
you get
very good.
this dynamic range and smush it up to there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter, instead of avoiding compression, you should avoid Spotify because they don't pay their artists any royalties. What are you doing
Oh.
listening to artists? You're supposed to down with Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was, I was on the forefront of all of that. I'm still a big, well, never mind. I won't get into where I get my files, but it's all the up and up. But yeah, I mean, it really is a shame how I was thinking like there's album. I would recommended an album to my neighbor. He says, "Oh, I'm into this, a disco house." I said, "Oh, I got into that when I listened to this album," and I realized you can't find it anywhere. Like it's only on hard copy and you can't just look it up. And it's just such a sad thing. And I don't have it anymore, and you can't go get it. And yeah, I mean, like, it's such an amazing thing, but it's gone. And yeah,
You have to find a bootleg or something somewhere.
Spotify does have some interesting open source stuff, though. I have to give them credit. You wouldn't think, but they have a pretty cool program, Basic Pitch, where you can upload like a wave form and it translates it to MIDI. I find that pretty cool. I've I have to admit I make use of that every once in a while. For like if I want to add a melody, I find it very easy to kind of do it that way, to be honest. But
yeah, sure.
but yeah, otherwise I've heard a lot of negative things about Spotify, but we have like a very successful Spotify artist with us right here. So
Not anymore. Used to be.
but there are people that swear
Did
by
you
it,
Taylor
you know?
Swift your
So
music?
Used to be. Yeah. I mean, I'm not against it because it gave me some money, so I'm cool. But it's mostly because not because of Spotify itself, but because the community around when synthwave came up, and I was in the middle of it, so I got some good listeners.
Yeah, I mean, they happen to be the third party involved with it, but it could have been any other company. They might have done a lot better at it. And I think that's
I
the
have it
main-
also on Bandcamp. Bandcamp, I made money on Bandcamp too. It's just doesn't matter. I'm not
yeah,
against these
there's easier ways
places.
to make
If
money,
if
that's
these
for
places
sure.
didn't
But
exist, imagine if they didn't exist. Like regular people like me couldn't have got that music going. I mean, who am I? I'm just some guy who makes music in the mountains of Transylvania. So I can't go talk with a record label somewhere in a big city. So this online stuff is all that I found. So and it was good enough for me. So I'm grateful for it. At the same
yeah,
time, I am aware that they are ripping off people, but at the same time, they are offering something which you wouldn't have anyway, which is a bunch of listeners.
yeah, like I think that's the same criticism I come up against sometimes. I remember people are like, "Why do you stream on YouTube? Why do you stream on Twitch? They're like, big bad US megacorp." And at the end of the day, it's kind of like riding your car on a highway. It's like it's infrastructure. You know what I mean? Like, and if you can reach a certain audience, maybe, Google is like an evil corporation, but it doesn't necessarily mean the people tuning in to your show are necessarily guilty of anything. You know what I mean? Like I
No,
don't
it's
know.
ridiculous. And I mean, yeah.
I'm pretty agnostic. I figure whatever works for you. And, I mean, whether it's TikTok these days, I know it's popular for maybe not for us per se, but there's people that have, like little weird musical careers, like with little TikTok videos and stuff. I mean, hey, if it works for you.
But where are you going to go? You're not going to go anywhere else. And I mean, people complain about it. It reminds me, a friend of mine gave me some wisdom, which I appreciate. He says, well, everybody wants to do it themselves, right? They always want to go out there and, be independent and so, go out into the wilderness and survive. So if I give you a hatchet and you go into the woods, how long before you send me an email? And I mean, that really sums it up for me. It's like,
I'm
yeah,
pretty
sorry.
good with the mountains, surviving myself, but
Yeah, but it'll be a long time before you're, downloading, you're watching YouTube out there by yourself. And it's like, you have to use the tools that you have. You can't reinvent the wheel all the time. And so, it's a stand on the
yeah.
shoulder of giants and use it. And it goes in a different direction. No, you're not going to be a
And
millionaire
yeah,
from selling records, but you might do well by shuffling around at the local bars if you get popular.
yeah, make your own stuff too, like on whatever is your favorite platform, or also be on the main ones. That's what I think.
Yeah, like I mean, even the old school IRC over at Wrecked and Night Ride, there's a
Yeah.
nice underground community there, and that's where I would interact with a lot of people who are just they're usually, I'm just saying there are definitely people out there that don't even engage in social media. They're just in like their own little scenes. Back in the day before internet, we used to have zines actually, and so actual people would mail like magazines and stuff in the mail and share cassette tapes and recordings, and so I think there's a
Yeah.
place for all of that
Things.
stuff, and that's what I always thought about this meetup group too, as an extension of that, right? So we get a chance to interact as a community. It's kind of a win-win-win. Get a chance to hopefully develop creatively and socialize with other people, other artists, other creative people, and so meetup. Hey, it's $200 a year, but it does the trick. So I figure, you know what, it's worth keeping up. But
Yeah, I have a blast. I'm glad to be here, and I learn everything new, something new every week. So, and inspire, more importantly.
yep, and this is life is short. You might as well spend some of the time on stuff that's important. I've said it before that I know we're all just extremely modest people, except maybe Vostel. Just kidding, just kidding. But
No, I'm humble too, man. But
you're
I'd
a
also
mixture.
recognize
I'm just kidding.
that I had a good song that got over a
But
million
you
plays.
you have
It's not
you have
much, but
talent, so you have a right, frankly, to be honest with you. But my point is that
everyone,
actually I forget what my point was. Damn,
bro, it's
rambling on
just
for too long.
luck.
Yeah, we're humble people, but you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you just keep
But this now I remember. I was gonna say art is really the most lasting type of work you can do. I mean, if you think about what we cherish from previous eras, we don't go back to their accounting ledgers and like, wow, look at this incredible accounting. We go back to works of like paintings, operas, whatever, like the classics, right? That live throughout time, architecture. So I just think, I used to be honest, I've had my own conflicts with, I come from the working class, and I've had conflicts with other people who just think, oh, why you do something that doesn't make money? They just, I don't mean to pick on that particular social class, but I sometimes had a hard time convincing them that, yeah, but art is, like I say, I'm kind of just repeating myself. I'm a bit of an idealist, but it lasts forever. I mean, I don't know. I just sometimes struggle
Well,
to convey this to
it,
people.
if it can find an audience, if the work product, if the painting, if the sculpture, if the piece of music can find an audience and is preserved. I don't know about you guys, but I know many very talented artists with, degreed artists that have been painting for decades they've got garages full of canvases, scope, and I found all of these recordings in a styrofoam cooler in a refrigerator in Austin, Texas,
Right.
So it can last forever. It can be eternal if it finds its audience and it's appreciated and it's curated and, it finds a place to live after, frankly, we're gone, after the creators
Yeah.
are gone,
And it's why I've been frustrated. Sorry to interrupt, Richard,
No.
but like that's why. Okay, I hate to even bring it up, but I'm going to do it anyway. CBC, which is like a publicly funded entity, ostensibly for what we are just talking about, in my humble opinion. I mean, literally, is supposed to be at least partially something for culture, for the people that are funding it, which, by the way, is approximately $1.5 billion at this point every year. And yet we have to use SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, all the evil, megacorps. Ironically, they're the only ones that actually are at least there. You know what I mean? The $1.5 billion funded public broadcaster does basically this. You know what I mean? So just saying, just a food for thought. Like that's why I've always been like, okay, we get just a small sampling just in this meetup group, and you're like, wow, if I didn't come to this meetup group, I wouldn't have heard all this stuff, right? And you would just think that maybe they could carve out 0.0001% of their budget to throw a little bit of a digital, like, hey, here's some Canadian artist, and but instead they would rather pay for US programming. I might remind everyone on this call, they literally have paid at one point for The Simpsons. I mean, what does that have to do with Canadian culture? No offense, like we already have The Simpsons on TV. I don't think they're doing that anymore. And maybe since I've been on this point, and probably when I kick the bucket, they'll be like, hey, electronic music in Toronto, in Canada.
The next
wow,
big
what an
thing.
idea.
I mean,
Yeah,
they've got some pretty
no,
bloody obscure
but you
stuff on
cannot
CBC
shame
radio.
these people. I had an angle. I thought, hey, maybe I can shame them. But you know what I learned the hard way? You can't shame the shameless. These people have zero shame. There's nothing you could say to them that would make them, but nothing. They could I don't even want to say what they could do. Anyway, sorry, but anyway, we're here. We're here. F the CBC. They can go and do whatever they do. You know what I mean? They do a lot of good things. That's the sad part. I know there's there's a studio in Toronto that the guy I used to who helped us with some of the Temper events, even Audio Pilot. Glenn Gould Studio. It's like a beautiful sound stage, and you know what I mean? There's all kinds of facilities like that that some people have access to, and good for them. But I guess for the rest of us, on the other side of the moat, with the snapping alligators that
On the other side of the tracks.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's enough from me.
By the way, sorry.
Go ahead.
Speaking about
go
art,
ahead, Phil.
people mentioned sorry, Phil, please.
I was just going to say, by the way, who are the Simpsons? No, I'm just kidding. It was just a joke.
Yeah. But speaking of art, there's something a phrase I heard, but that I quite liked is that you die two times. First, when you die, and second, the last time somebody speaks your name. And so, art is one of those things that was going to give you probably the longest longevity as far as fame is concerned, especially music. Because, I mean, if you ask a child who a famous actor of the 70s was, and they probably don't know, but I'll bet you they know Beethoven and Mozart and everybody else. And I think that speaks to the power of music and its emotional connection. So.
What about that caveman that first hit the drum back in the prehistoric era? No,
John?
Who was he?
Play the drums with the bones, right? Like 2001, right?
Yeah.
He's looking for a copyright infringement. Hey, this is
came up with all those MIDI patterns.
Anytime you hit a bass drum, it's like, I want royalties. We got to go back to the first caveman.
Yeah, that's the Rockefellers. That's how they started.
Vosto, I like the comment that you made in passing about using all of them, use all the sources, publish everywhere. I don't know that if I paraphrased that correctly, but that maybe that is the only sensible option, right? You don't know what's going to hit or what channel or what technology. Go everywhere if you can.
Especially now when you have services that just publish for you
Right.
everywhere.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
and if you have your own little thing that's not on that, you can use your time to publish it there.
I released some music with using TuneCore, and so it was my first stuff I released in April, I think. And 2 days later, I was on TikTok. I mean, I never even use it, but I saw all the platforms they release it to, so I started hunting to see. And some woman used it was in Japan. They used it to sell like jewelry or something. So my song came up as they showed clips of their jewelry, and it was a day and a half after I released it. There was a commercial in Japan. Yeah, I know. They owe me like at least a half a cent. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking, but they're gonna hear it from my lawyers. But it was just the coolest thing. Like, never mind. It's just like someone from Japan listened to my song, decided they liked it, and used it within a day of me releasing it. And like, I don't have any expectations of making money. Like, that's it. That's like, oh, that's good. $70 for the year. That does me for the year. I'll be, that's gonna keep me through at least 5 dinner parties, looking interesting. Anyway. It's fun. It's nice to get it out there and to even look like, oh, you say, oh, I make music. Oh, do you? Yeah, I'm on Spotify. Oh, really? Like that enough is like, it's so cool. I'm old enough to just say that's so cool. Like it's like I'm a published artist, even though there was no quality control. Nobody has to know that.
Yeah. Funny.
Anyways,
Yep. So
Yeah, but the next question is how many listeners you have per month?
Yeah. I just tell them, I say, I haven't had a chance to check recently.
and then there's the
I've
cross
been
marketing,
busy.
right? With social
I've
media.
been busy. That's a good point.
Everyone
Yeah.
expects you to be on all platforms too, or not. I shouldn't say everyone, but there are so many artists that it's like, okay, part of it now is like you got to be on Twitter, you got to be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I probably am not even naming some of the bigger ones. And I mean, I tried to do as much of that as I could, but it's amazing what is required these days. I feel like I had to learn a lot of graphic arts just to keep pumping out. Now there's AI that helps, but I'm just saying, like, just finding album covers or pictures to go along with your music. You know what I mean? It's like these are things that it takes there's all kinds of skill levels, and there's people that are really, really good at it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you don't want to misrepresent the music. I feel like I'm possibly guilty with this, but at the end of the day, there's people that really are exceptional. Like they have even great videos. They'll just have like, it's just so, what's the
Sadly,
word I'm looking for? Like you're just amazed by it sometimes at how good they are.
we can't all be Philip Meadows, sadly.
Well, Phil's definitely one of
He's the
our,
man.
I've always said, one of the best producers in our group. I'd say Vosto is as well. Not that I'm picking favorites, but it just happens to be my opinion. But yeah, it's really good though. It's really good to, like I say, to be inspired as well from everyone else's work.
And it is a stretch, right? You do get stretched and you go off and you do something that you might not have thought yourself. So it's not your idea, but then you make it your own, so that's how you grow. And even if you go through all that and you decide, oh, that was a bitter failure, that's still something you have learned something. So
yeah,
not a waste.
that's what I've been using to cope for for several of my. I'm like, okay, I wasted a ton of time doing something that ended up being something awful. But you know what? I had to do it. It's weird. It's like I had to do it to its completion.
Next time I won't do
get to the
that,
next
right?
stage.
I won't do. Yeah.
So
Well, that's a good phrase is you either win or you learn. There's no losing necessarily, right? So if you
well,
win,
losing is
that's
not
fun.
learning, right? That's how you lose if you don't learn, right? I know people like that. It's like,
Yeah.
everyone makes mistakes, but some people just make the same mistakes over and over again. It's like, okay, that's losing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and no one's perfect, but yeah, like,
But like winning's a good time. Everybody likes to win, but you're not going to take anything out of that down the road. Like that doesn't get to come with you. Whereas when you lose, or if you don't win and you can take stock and learn something from it, that's something that you get to carry down the road with you. So you don't want to win too often, because if you're winning all the time, then you're probably sitting still.
The
winning is
problem,
also a kind of can define many different ways, but yeah.
I have a problem though. So, one of my best songs on all these listening platforms that end up having like over 1 million plays on like one platform, and was used like in famous gamer streams and whatnot, like Dr. Disrespect. The problem is that song is not my favorite at all, and it had mixing problems too, and it wasn't finished. I just put it on SoundCloud as a demo, and then a guy on YouTube called Prime Thanatos, he scoped it, he ripped it off of SoundCloud with the program, and then he published it in a mix on YouTube. And so a lot of people, that mix ended up having like 2 million views. So my song was like number 3 on the mix. And before, when I saw that, when it was only at like maybe 20,000 views or something, I was like, oh my God, this mix is gonna blow up. And I'm not gonna bother talking about permission to upload or something like that, or you stole my song. I was just like, okay, cool. And so I released it as a single, and it ended up a huge success, even though it doesn't have the best instruments. Like the drums are kind of suck, they're not fully layered yet. The vibe is there, and I like the bass a lot, but it wasn't like a finished track, in my opinion. So it ended up the best track, right? So then I make let's say I make a new album now. Okay, the other tracks were sort of good too, like they got hundreds of thousands of views and plays and whatever. But let's say now, when kind of the synthwave trend has it's oversaturated and stuff like that, so now I make superior songs, like from a technical point of view. So, but it doesn't get plays, dude. Like it's over. So if you're talking about winning, like, yeah, you can win from a technical point of view and have nobody care about you, or you can be in the middle of a trend that's hyped and make a lower quality song, but you can win with plays. And so I've already reached something that others, maybe low bedroom producers, dream of, like having like 20,000 listeners per month or something, which is a lot for a nobody. But now I only have like a few thousands or something, which is still good, but I see it going down the drain. And I'm a superior musician and creator, but it's for what now? Because now I'm not gonna win. Now I'm just gonna lose.
Well, it's a timing, right?
Like, what's
That's
going
why
on?
I wanted to say this earlier. Like, timing is a huge, obviously, right, in music, timing. But to say that, for example, Richard, 40 years later, out of the crate, this music comes back alive. Who's to say that's not winning? You know what I mean? It may not be from a Spotify monthly listener perspective,
But also, never mind. I
Exactly.
mean,
this music is
even
living on and
I feel
still,
good making the songs. I don't care that I'm not making a monthly pension, even though I care because it's good money for a Romanian. But I do get the satisfaction of just making the songs. So
the fact that you
it's
made a
all
good
good.
song worthy of it, I think is, you know what I mean? Like you made music that got like, let's say whatever, 20,000 listens per month. You know, it's or more or less proof of the quality that, you know what I mean, to be able to even achieve that rather than the numbers, I would say,
And I
perhaps.
think,
But
I mean, I
I
would
can only,
say, I mean, you look at the win. So some people took interest in it and thought it was fantastic. So there's circumstances that allowed that to happen. So what were those circumstances, right? So I think the win in that situation, I mean, is maybe it's not as technical, maybe it's not as well produced, but it resonated with
The
people.
vibe
Like
fit. Yeah, the vibe was
it
like
connected with people, and it connected with the
exactly.
people that were looking at it. So okay,
Mhm.
so now let's say you're not winning in that regard, but you're winning in that you're producing better. But so you're producing better music, but you're not right at that level, and none of us have been except you. So forgive me, but you just didn't resonate with people. It's not that it's better or worse. It's just this certain vibe. So that would be the lesson is, okay, so how do I find that vibe? How do I resonate? Maybe it was just fitting in with that setting of the video. Like there's songs that like stuff I liked, and I found the song because it was a part of a TV show montage, and I love the song, and I would have never found it if I didn't like the montage. And every time I think about the song, I think about the show, and it connects to me. So so that would be the lesson to me is that, yeah, it's more about vibe. And I mean, it has nothing to do with technical prowess, surely, because otherwise Mozart and Beethoven would still be popular.
they are
Right?
still popular.
Oh,
That
stop it, Lenny.
what do you
Good
mean?
God, you have to get out more.
No, I mean the fact that no, I
Yeah,
mean
yeah,
literally the fact that you know their names is the proof. That's what
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, right?
No, no,
No,
I'm just
seriously.
teasing. Yeah, yeah, no, you're totally right.
It's just like but the thing about the timing is, like you look at something like Nirvana, just as an example, I always like to focus on because I remember so clearly. I was listening to music, including Nirvana, before it was popular. The same people that 3 years later are walking around with flannel shirts and like their boots all of a sudden. 3 years later, they were like, "What is this garbage?" You know what I mean? So I can say to you that it happens to rap. I remember I used to listen to rap a little tiny bit. I wasn't heavy into it, but like in the mid '80s, and it was people that were just like, "What the hell is this stuff?" Right? And those same people 5 years later are walking around, like pretending they're a b-boy. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, okay,
Mhm.
so I think personally you should just follow your own true passion, and the trends sort of come and go. But at the end of the day, there's no denying some people specialize in it, right? Just like some people specialize in assassinations and all kinds of nefarious skills that people have. I'm serious. It's almost weird, but I've said it before. There's a huge overlap in the entertainment business and gangsters. I'm not kidding. It's literally like, so I feel like if you have a skill set for one, it could be that it's good for the other, just considering the people involved in the entertainment business. I mean, they're all criminals, frankly. Not all, but the vast majority.
Especially those motherfuckers at CBC.
Well, CBC, I don't know
Sorry.
the full details, but the only reason I pick on them is because there's public money going to it, right?
Of course. I'm
You
just
know,
teasing you.
but
But
and
yeah,
and in an environment, I just in case there's people outside of Canada, we don't have like the United States where there's like, and even you could argue in the United States they have like they're waiting for some antitrust action because there's just like basically a monopoly on information, despite this illusion of diversity. There's a lot of monopolies, but in Canada, dude, there's three companies: Bell, Rogers, Chorus Entertainment. There might be a few others, smaller ones. They just consolidated. I don't know if the government let that through with Shaw. There was one out west. They just got absorbed by Rogers. So CBC should be like a counterweight to counterbalance to say, okay, yes, we have a smaller population. It just happens to be the reality of Canada. And commercially, most of our media, like our news media, needs subsidies from our government to survive. So even the for-profit organizations, like the Toronto Star is a popular daily, right? Can you imagine they get government money
Mhm.
because their business model is so bad that they can't remain profitable? So I don't know. That's why I'm just saying, like, when I talk about these things, it's like, look, if the Toronto Star can get money, why can't I? That's all I'm getting. I'm not even against the money being sent. I'm saying here. You know what I'm saying? No, I mean it.
Right.
Think
No,
I'm
no,
kidding?
no, no, I'm not. I don't think you're kidding. I get it. I mean,
I might take the wrong approach. That I'm willing to accept. You know what I mean? Considering, but it just takes numbers. You know what I mean? Like that's the other thing. People really are fascinated on winning from a money perspective, which for sure you can do a lot with money, right? But people in big numbers all doing a common thing. I'm telling you, that's the one thing that these people shake in their boots more than anything else. These elites out there, you know what I mean, in smoky rooms deciding all these things. When they
absolutely.
when they look out the window and they see millions and millions of people saying, you know what, F you, we're taking this shit back, that's when they get nervous. You know what I mean? And I just feel like artists shoot themselves in the foot constantly. I hear people, you know what I mean? And I do it myself too, I guess. And I don't even know if like skill level wise, whatever, but attitude wise, I think I'm there. But a lot of times artists are just like they think making money is evil, for example. And I know this topic is touchy, right? And I mean, we all agree we love making music. I would do it for free forever. You know what I mean? It's not a motivational fact. But why shoot yourself in the foot? You know what I mean? Why shoot someone else in the foot too? That's another thing. By you saying that everything I do should be free and I should lose and I should have no money and I should be poor, the next guy maybe doesn't want that life. You know what I mean? Maybe they wouldn't mind having, food on their table. You know what I mean? And so what I'm trying to say is I dream of a world where people like us could actually make a living. A guy like Vostok with all his exceptional abilities could be even more successful than he is. You know what I mean? And Philip and everyone. I don't mean to put anyone on the spot here, but
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I really don't want to talk about myself because it's kind of cringe, you know what I mean? But when I hear all the other music that people make, I'm like, wow, you know what? This is so I get it. It's easy to talk, and it takes a lot to do, you know what I mean? But at least we've been at this for now. I'm even losing count, but I want to say 8 years, 9 years, and hey, listen, I'm proud of the fact that we still are keeping the spirit alive. And I'm doing whatever I can to keep this going. But anyway, I'm a true believer, and like I say, this is not something you'll regret. Making something that you truly believe in. Like I say, I worked in a factory before for 8 hours a day. I don't have fond memories of the stuff I made on the assembly line. You know what I mean? I have better fond memories of a tune I made that, three people liked. But hey, at least, I was able to create something for three people. It is better than the stuff I was doing on that assembly line. I'll tell you that much.
Mhm. As long as you did it after hours and you got your paycheck, then everything's fine. Really. But if you did it
Well,
during work, it'd be a deep shit.
these
But I hear you.
days, I don't even talk about such things. But yeah,
Good for you. You know what, guys?
I'm in computers. You know what I mean? I just want to
Mhm.
say I'm thankful to Bill Gates as much as everyone hates the guy. If it
Right.
wasn't for Bill Gates and Windows 95, I wouldn't have had a job. You know what I mean? So just to throw it
Yeah.
out there.
Good point.
Thanks, guys. I got to call in tonight. I'm up super early, but thanks so much for everybody sharing them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Actually,
thank you all.
I don't
And
think I'll see you next week because I'm actually going to Barcelona. So, or next
next
month.
month, you mean? Yep.
Yes, yeah, next month. So maybe I'll tune in, but I'm hoping I'll be busy.
Do something else. Don't tune in.
I think
Have a good trip.
I'm
Safe
I'm gonna
travel.
try. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
We'll see you next time, though.
Take care. Take care.
All right.
See
I'm
you,
gonna,
man.
Thanks all.
yeah, I'm
Take
gonna
care.